Hey guys, the last time I talked to you was back in October, right before I left. It's been about 6 weeks. And what I just wanted to do was answer a couple of Vivian's questions and give you a bit of a sense of how the trip has been, how it's unfolded, and what I found interesting and not. And then I look forward to more of your questions. I'm happy to answer them anytime. So I began in Turkey, went on to Lebanon, and then finished in Israel. And I just traveled to the Philippines. I just actually touched down in Manila yesterday. I hope the screen doesn't wiggle too much. Some of the questions she sent were about the U.S. presidential elections. And for really the past 8 months, it's come on and off when I've raised the topic. It hasn't really come out as by interviewees themselves. And that's partially because of how I go about asking questions. I try to begin with personal stories and focus in on that, and then pull out to their life experiences that relate to America, rather than starting off with their political views, which means I have less talk of Bush and less talk of Clinton and Obama than I would if I just went in straight away and said, what do you think about America and its politicians and its politics? But that said, I think Hillary Clinton is a name that comes up again and again. Bill Clinton is generally quite well liked in India. In Pakistan, the Clintons are strongly associated with Nawaz Sharif, and Nawaz Sharif, the opposition candidate, is now increasingly associated with democratic forces, and he's more popular than he's ever been. So Hillary Clinton enjoys a certain popularity in India and in Pakistan. And it really, though, does depend on who you're talking to. If you talk to really well-educated elites who follow American news, Barack Obama comes up. But the issue of name recognition is big. If you go to poorer parts of the country, say India or Pakistan, no one knows who Barack Obama is. Except, of course, when Obama said that he'd attack al-Qaeda unilaterally within Pakistan. And then a lot of Pakistanis thought, well, even the opposition candidate to Bush is still hawkish and not really respectful of our sovereignty. So that was a bit of a blunder for him. But I would say, by and large, that Hillary Clinton's a name that's relatively well-recognized and well-liked, but there are domestic politics things wherever you go. In India, she's strongly associated with a relatively corrupt or deemed corrupt donor. So it's an up-and-down kind of thing. In the Middle East, Clinton's name comes up again and again, at least in my discussions. And again, with the big political elites, Barack Obama often comes up as an example of a guy who could really be a change of face for the United States. But that said, I haven't focused as much on the elections as I might do in the coming weeks, because it's something that a lot of people have asked me about, and I'll make sure to ask more questions regarding it. So, this project actually kicked off with a bit of a bang, because right after I left, the PKK, which is a Kurdish militant organization that's largely operating out of northern Iraq and striking into Turkey, killed 17 or 12, I think it's 12, but originally it was reported as 17, Turkish soldiers in the southeast of the country. And the Turkish government responded by blasting Hakkari, which is a town in the southeast, and threatening to strike big time within northern Iraq. And then the Prime Minister Erdogan went to Bush and kind of settled the whole situation, and people were quite glad at the end of all of that. But it was a very intense time to be there, because I saw, a lot of people who strongly associated their domestic struggle against what they call Kurdish terrorism with the United States' war on terror, and wondered why America only struck what it saw as its own terrorists. So I got a lot of resentment and a feeling of betrayal from the Turkish military and from citizens, even on the street. When I walked around, you can see one of the posts, actually the first post I did after setting off, was a protest rally where they cried, basically, curse the PKK, curse America, and it's a slogan that rhymes in Turkish. So, it all boils down in Turkey to a sense that the United States is really no longer a partner to be trusted, and no longer it really depends on who you talk to. Some people in the military have been disenchanted ever since the first Gulf War in 1992, or even farther back when President Johnson got upset with then Prime Minister because of his desire to intervene in Cyprus. So it stretches back a long way. But what's interesting about Turkey is that 9% of the country has a favorable view of the United States, and only 3% of the country have a favorable view of Bush. And considering that the margin of error for any poll is 3%, it could very well be 0% have support for Bush, and a very small number support the United States. Even though they face similar types of foes. I mean, terrorism is one of the hottest domestic topics there. And the other one is really the rise, or the resurfacing, I should say, of an Islamic face to Turkey, which is a strongly secular country. And so an issue that came up again and again was secular nationalists in Turkey saying America was allying with the current Islamist AKP party because it wanted to see a moderate Islamic government in the region, which pissed off a lot of the secular elites, but made the Islamic political parties and political followers more likely to see the U.S. as a supporter because it allowed a greater degree of freedom of religion than their model did, or than, say, the French model does. So it was an interesting time, and I was living in the center of Istanbul, meeting with Armenians and people from all walks of life, and then going to the southeast soon after the strikes and meeting with Kurds who had very, very strong views about how the United States could help them achieve more rights within the country. What's interesting is the more radical the Kurdish nationalists, the more pro-American they often tended to be. The more moderate forces within the Armenian community and the Kurdish community thought that overt U.S. support could actually undermine their cause. So Turkey really mixed up a lot of my preconceptions. You have the more Islamic parties more pro-America than the secular parties, and you have the more radical nationalists more pro-America than some of the softer nationalists who don't even seek a nation state for the Kurds, but just want more democratic rights for the Kurdish minority within Turkey. And what they really say is, give us these. They really say, America, hold up your ideals of human rights universally, but don't try to meddle too specifically within our affairs. This is something I heard quite a lot. In Lebanon, the same thing. There's a big political crisis. Going on right now for the presidency. And I think an American viewer might easily try to break it down into sort of an Islamic versus a Christian tiff, or just reduce it to an anti-Hezbollah versus pro-Hezbollah conflict. But it's far more complicated than that. You have alliances between Sunnis and Christians, and you have alliances between anti-Syrian or former anti-Syrian Shias and Christians, former anti-Syrian Shias and Christians. No, I'm getting it all mixed up. This is really a testament to Lebanese politics. It's astonishingly confusing. You have former anti-Syrian Christians aligned with pro-Syrian Hezbollah Shia. So that was an interesting thing to see. A sort of common thread I heard again and again was, America as a force that upholds free and fair elections, or upholds basic human rights, or upholds sovereignty of other nations is welcome. But an America that tries to fight proxy wars on other people's soil, in this case, America allying with, say, Israel, against Syrian and Iranian influence, is an unwelcome force. And I hear this both from the March 14th coalition, which is very anti-Syrian and relatively more pro-U.S.,